Morning, all. All right, so this is one of those days where the news video and the preview video are going to be the same thing because we've got only 3 games on tonight in the NHL. So when it's 3 or less, just combine them into one video. All right, Boston's in against the Rangers. That starts at 7 o'clock Eastern. There's one game at 7, one at 8, one at 9 if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, one at 4, one at 5, and one at 6. If you're in Europe, there's 3 games that start in the middle of the night for you. So 11-4-2 Boston, 6-8-3 New York Rangers. Boston has won both games of this series with the Rangers, unlike the series with the Islanders where they've lost all 3, which means they should beat the Rangers if that form still holds true. For Boston, last night's meltdown should be a wake-up call that you have to play every period of the game. Playing well for 2 periods just doesn't work. Good 40 minutes doesn't win you a game. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. Now the Kings and the Minnesota Wild, the last time they met, the Kings won it 4-0. The Kings, when they won that game too, that was Minnesota coming out of their little COVID break, and it was portrayed that, well, maybe they're a little rusty because, they've been off. And so excuses were here and there, but I will say this. The Wild have now won 4 in a row since that meeting. That 4-game winning streak started right after losing 4-0 against the Kings. But the Kings are in a 6-game winning streak, meaning they're going for 7. I figured, well, I'll wager on Minnesota today. They're at home. The Kings are now 9-6-3. Minnesota's 10-6, and they've looked really good. That 6-2 win over Colorado, they looked very good. Minnesota's won 3 out of 5 meetings between these teams this year. So it's possible that the Kings even up the series at 3 apiece, but we'll see. And again, that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Should be a very entertaining game. That to me would be a game of the night candidate right there. Colorado and Arizona will play for the first time. So this is one of those rare meetings right now between teams that haven't met yet this year. Colorado's 9-6-1, and they need to get some wins now. And for Arizona, they're 9-7-3. They have to look at this game and say, hey, if we win this in regulation, we're in it. So while I've talked a lot about St. Louis and the problems they're in, yeah, Colorado as well may find themselves on the outside looking in if they can't turn this around. And so Arizona proved against Anaheim one of 2 things. Either Anaheim sucks with a 3-goal lead, or Arizona's very good at playing from behind. So we'll find out tonight. We could find out which one it is. If they win this one straight out, then they've just proven they're a pretty good team. So we'll see. Yeah, and of course, as always, let me know who you think is going to win in the comment section below. Now, waiver wire news. Chlapik did clear, which is not really surprising to anybody. Also, there are 2 on the waiver wire today that they're in the maybe category for maybe they get picked up. Jared Chinordi had a decent year last year for Nashville, but he's not necessary on their blue line right now, and this year hasn't been as strong as last year, and so he's on waivers. He's still young enough. There's enough to his game that I could see him maybe being picked up, but we'll see. And Stefan Nason, who was kind of a folk hero not that long ago, he's on waivers for San Jose. He might get picked up. Again, there might be a team that needs a depth forward that says he'll be an upgrade on somebody else that we have currently on the roster, but we'll see. And those are the only 2 for today. Jacob Voracek, who's been out for 2 weeks, said he didn't have any symptoms while he was on the COVID list, but he is likely back tomorrow. So that's good news if you're a Flyers fan. You got Giroux back. Now you're going to get Voracek back. Things are lining up pretty well. And again, if they can get that list smaller and smaller. And I haven't seen anything yet about anybody else in San Jose being thrown on the list. So tomorrow's game for San Jose, I'm assuming, is going to go forward. And because I have to do that preview tonight, so that game's likely going to be in the preview for tomorrow. Fingers crossed on that one. Keith Yandle. Remember before the season, there was some talk about maybe Yandle would be a healthy scratch and he might be on the trade block. Well, Yandle is now past Steve Larmer, the consecutive games list. He is now alone and 3rd on the list. He's played 885 in a row. And it's an interesting list because I know there's always been that debate about guys who get up that list. Like, you're chasing down Doug Jarvis. And I remember when Doug Jarvis set the games played record, because I'm old, and the idea being, well, yeah, he's played the most consecutive games, but he doesn't play a tough game. He doesn't really play a strong game out there. So maybe he never misses a game. And that was a complaint on Jarvis at the time. I don't remember ever hearing that about Larmer. And with Yandel, I don't know how much of the doesn't really throw hits, doesn't really take that many hits would work for Yandel. But 885 in a row, no matter how you get there, in my eyes, that is sensational. Look at all the injuries that have gone on in the NHL over the last 18 months. None of them have been Keith Yandel. Of course, he hasn't played in Pittsburgh. He hasn't played in St. Louis. I would imagine he'd be getting off the plane in St. Louis, and he'd fall. They'd be like, how is he injured before he's even got on the ice for us? Well, Keith Yandel's a Blue, and his games played record is done. That's it. That's as far as it goes. Today is the final episode of the Tim and Sid show on Sportsnet. Now, if you don't watch it or you're not aware of it, it's a good sports talk show, and I know there are people who don't like it. I've seen people commenting today that good, it's garbage, glad it's gone. Without the Tim and Sid show, you might not be watching The Hockey Guy right now. That one of the driving forces behind me deciding to start making videos where I would talk about hockey and all of that was that I would watch them every day, and sometimes it would generate ideas where I'd be like, well, I'd love to talk about sort of what they are, but from a different angle. And here you are. Here we are. So I understand there are people who don't like Sid. There may be people who don't like Tim. I don't understand how I can understand people not necessarily liking Sid. Not because I don't like Sid. I like Sid. But I can understand how some of the things he says and sometimes the way he says things might be off-putting. But I don't understand why anybody wouldn't like Tim. That to me just seems just insane. And put together, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. And their show, there was a time where I never missed a minute of it. And that was before they had the big bright studio. That was before they had, the guests on all the time. And it was really, I don't know, when they started making it made for TV. And if you're a longtime Tim and Sid fan, you know what I'm talking about here. You likely know what I'm talking about. I liked it when it felt like you were watching a radio show on TV. And it did change over the years, as it will. But that was when it was at its peak for me. But it's still been very watchable. I do always make sure I catch parts of the show. I basically almost always catch the start of it. And I'm like, all right, so what are they talking about today? Who do they have on today? Okay, I want to see that segment, or I want to see this segment for sure. So, yeah, kudos and best wishes to Sid and his new venture. And for Tim, hopefully everything works out really well for Tim as well in Sid's absence. I will say this for the show. It has been proven over the years that when either Tim or Sid go on vacation and they have guest hosts, there are a lot of people who are very good and could do this show very, very well. So we'll see what they do. All right. It is the I had to put this on the board because Montreal fans are going to be guessing what this is. It's month 2 of the hockey season. You know what that means. So it's a Brody Lee reference too. So it kind of all works. Carey Price. Yeah, it's that time of year. Every single season we end up talking about Carey Price. I need to do a Carey Price video because every single year I do a Carey Price video. And it's always the same discussion. It is always the same discussion. I could probably just repost last year's video and just change the date and see if anybody goes, well, wait. No, that's not right. He's talking, what? But, the stats would probably still line up. It is crazy how every single year we have this debate. The difference is, now they have Jake Allen as the backup. So for Montreal, their backup was always clearly a backup, right? Now they've got a guy who can be the starter, who can be number 1, and that's kind of changed the conversation in Montreal. So we'll see how that conversation proceeds from here, but I do need to do the annual Carey Price video. Last year I even titled it the 3rd annual Carey Price video, and now we're in year 4. Yay! Can't wait till next year when we can do another one on Carey Price and what's going on. And he is a fascinating goaltender. I'll come at it from a different angle this time compared to last time, and I always try to make sure to make it a little bit different, so it's not just here's the board from the last Carey Price video. I just blew all the dust off, and here you go. Added some stats from this year, and ta-da. But yeah, it's always going to be Carey Price being scrutinized, and he knows that's going to happen because he's Montreal's goaltender, and he makes a lot of money. So that's just how that works. Speaking of guys who are getting a lot of scrutiny right now, JT Miller in Toronto and in Vancouver, and I'm just gonna say it. I know Miller, he commits turnovers. I know people get upset about his body language. Can we not? Like, it's just so weird. And I kind of saw this last night with Ian McIntyre during the game, where they were talking to him in between periods, and he's like, "Look, Miller's just very. This is how he is, and if the Canucks were winning games, we wouldn't care." And he's right. And so there's still going to be conversations about it. The biggest problem for the Canucks is structure and defense. And Miller's the easy target because Miller's tradable, and he's a guy that you can poke at. You can't do it with Pettersson, obviously. Quinn Hughes has committed some seriously questionable turnovers, and yet nobody in their right mind would say, well, we need to trade Hughes, right? And I agree with that there's no way you even look at it. I would argue that JT Miller, for the offense that he's producing, I think he's taking a lot of criticism when it's a whole team effort here. This is, we all love Höglander, but there have been times where I'm like, okay, so he's working really hard here, but he's also out of position there. So there's definitely, and I think we see this with most fan bases, there's definitely a tendency to polarize around one or two players. And I think part of it is kind of like if they get that part fixed, then they're good. And for Vancouver, there is no, if we get that part fixed, then we're good. There's just none. None. It's a team effort. Last night against Edmonton, it was a whole team effort again. This is not one guy. So I find it weird that everybody's piling on Miller, and I agree, he's not playing well. There's a lot of players on the Canucks who also aren't playing well. And again, part of what happens too when a team is struggling is that people will praise, well, this guy's doing well, and it'll be a fourth liner, it'll be a number 5, number 6 defenseman or a backup goalie. That's when you know you're in trouble. Is when the player that fans are watching and going, that guy's working really hard, is not your star player and is not a guy you build around. And yeah, that's been an issue. And I know it's happening with other teams as well. Where, like, for instance, for Buffalo, for years, it's been the same thing where fans will praise guys who may not be there the year after, may not have been there the year before, but the effort's there. So, yeah, we'll see how that continues to unfold. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.